And now back to Just Energy Radio with Dr. Rita Louise.
Hello and welcome back to Just Energy Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you all for staying tuned to the second hour of the show. This hour of the show is brought to you by the Institute of Applied Energetics. That's www.appliedenergeticsinstitute.com. Please do go out to that website. It has been totally redesigned, and we now have the Jumpstart Your Intuition package. You can download it for free. It's a 50-page ebook that will help you tap into your intuition, at least give you some beginning steps to start opening yourself up to this unseen world, which is what we're going to be talking about in the second hour. It's also brought to you by soulhealer.com. You know, go to the Just Energy Radio website, sign up for the newsletter, subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of that basic stuff. This weekend, Texas, Weird Fest, Texas, I don't know, Glen Rose, Texas, all of the events that are coming up, and I just dropped my paper on the floor, so we're just going to skip past that. Go to the Just Energy Radio webpage. They're all listed there. Anyway, let me tell you a little bit about our second hour guest, Susan Shumsky, and we're going to get her on and talk about the power of the aura. Susan Shumsky is award-winning author of 8 best-selling books, foremost spirituality expert, and highly acclaimed and greatly respected professional teacher, has over 45 years experience as an educator in the consciousness field. Dr. Shumsky is the founder of Divine Revelation, a complete technology for contacting the divine presence and listening to the inner voice. So the author of the book, The Power of the Auras, her website is www.drsusan.org. Dr. Susan Shumsky. Hi, Susan. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. I'm so happy to be here with you today, Dr. Rita.
Well, I am just so happy to have you back on. I just love having you on because I feel like we always have just really good, deep, meaningful conversations.
That's great. That's great.
You know, so I think, you know, we should touch on this in, you know, in just a very general sense, but I think my listeners know what an aura is. Like, you know, we talk about it pretty often on the show, you know, so I want to kind of not dig on the very beginner stuff, although, you know, for those that don't know, we can kind of touch on that. But where I really wanted to start was to talk about life force energy, you know, because it kind of takes it to the next level. But just very briefly, what is the aura? And then how does this life force energy figure into the whole thing?
Right. Great question. So the reality is that the aura is the human energy field. The human energy field is an invisible energy that pervades, permeates, and surrounds your physical body. And your auric field is made up of 5 layers. So these are called koshas in Sanskrit. A kosha is a sheath. And the reason they call it a sheath is because it is veiling your true self. So these 5 koshas are what make up your individuality. And the koshas are the physical body, which is called the Annamaya kosha. And that means food sheath. The reason it's called the food sheath is because it is made of food, sustained by food, and becomes food for something else after you're gone. So that is the physical body, the gross physical body. Then the next sheath is called the Pranamaya kosha, and that has to do with the question you were asking about this life force energy. The Pranamaya kosha, kosha meaning sheath, is the energy body which contains the life force energy that is giving you life. If you did not have this pranic body, this life force energy body, then you would not be living, your body would not be warm, you would not have any motion in your body. It is said in the ancient scriptures of India that when prana is in the body, that's defined as life. And when prana leaves the body, that is defined as death. So when the body dies, the physical body turns cold and becomes stiff, and it no longer has any life or motion in it. So it is your pranic body that is actually keeping you alive, and the prana, the word prana means life force energy. And in China they call that qi, and in Japan they call that ki. So that life force energy is flowing through specific energy conduits in your subtle body called the pranic body or the energy body. And that those conduits of energy are they're like subtle energy tubes, and the prana flows through them, or this subtle energy flows through them, this life force energy. So these pathways are called nadi, and that's what they're called in Sanskrit. And then in China they call them meridians. So the chakras are part of this system as well, part of this energy body. So that is one of these sheaths. Another sheath is called the mental body, or manomaya kosha. And that contains your subtle senses. It contains your ability to be conscious and aware and to experience the world through that mental body. And when you see an aura, you're seeing the mental body because you're seeing the emotional body, which is basically your mental body, your sensory body, or your sensory mind. Then the next sheath, or kosha, is called the vijnanamaya kosha, which is your intellect and ego body. That is, the intellect is where you are able to make decisions, to discern, to discriminate, and it is also where you are, where you have your ego, which is who you think you are. It's not who you really are, it's who you think you are. So the intellect and ego body. And then the fifth body and final body, there's five sheaths. The fifth one is called the Anandamaya kosha, which literally translates as a blissful sheath, and that is your causal body. That through that body you become an individual, you become a separate individual. So these are the five-fold sheath. And then there are higher bodies too. Your higher self is another body, but those are the basic sheaths that they talk about in the ancient scriptures of India.
I am just so glad you can say those words. I could see myself writing a book about it and going, blah, 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 that one.
Yeah.
Do animals have the higher bodies like we do? You were talking about the mental body and about our ability to use our intellect. I mean, do animals have those? And is there kind of a dividing line like, dogs and cats have them and other, plankton don't?
That's an interesting question. I don't even know the answer to that question, but I would say definitely animals do have a soul. They're definitely awake and aware. They definitely feel pain. They have emotions. So they definitely, I would say they definitely have an emotional body, and they definitely have a soul. Now, I don't know if they have all those five bodies, but they would have to have the pranic body, or they wouldn't be alive. They're also breathing in and breathing out. So they have the pranic body. They have the mental body, which is the emotional body. Now, I'm not sure about the other bodies, higher bodies, but they would have to have a causal body as well, because otherwise they couldn't be a separate individual. So they have at least most of those bodies, and they probably have all of them, actually.
Yeah, I mean, now that you were kind of talking about it, I was thinking about it, I was like, well, yeah, they might not be very bright, but there'd have to be some level of intelligence there.
They definitely do. They have memories. They have experiences. A cat will definitely remember the last time you told it to get off the bed, or whether you petted it. They're very emotional beings, for example.
Well, they might remember it, but they don't act on it. But they do remember what time it is, so that they can. Well, mine don't. They just look at me like. But they do remember, and they can tell time. It's 3 o'clock. It's time for dinner.
Yes, definitely. For sure.
So you talked about the aura and the different bodies, and you talked about the chakras. Are there others?
Not really.
Well,
I didn't
yeah,
really talk about the chakras yet.
and I was just wondering, what other structures make up this subtle anatomy, and how do they kind of interact with each other?
Right. So the subtle anatomy is what is keeping your physical anatomy alive. So this system of nadis, these pathways of life force energy, are what is bringing life to your physical form. And the plexuses of subtle energy, where many of these nadis intersect, that is called a chakra. Chakra means wheel. It's a Sanskrit word. It means wheel. It is not spelled or pronounced chakra. There's no such word in the Sanskrit language as chakra. It doesn't exist. These are chakra. That's how you pronounce the word. And it means wheel because it has a hub and it has spokes. The spokes are radiations of this life force energy, and the hub is the plexus of energy. And these chakras, the major chakras, now there are hundreds of chakras in your body, but the major chakras are the 7 major chakras, which are associated with your endocrine system, with specific endocrine glands, and they're also associated with specific organs in your body, and they're regulating those organs and maintaining the health and well-being of your body. So if your chakras are not filled with pranic energy, then what's going to happen is you might feel lack of energy, you might feel ill, you might even get a disease, if the chakras are very clogged, if these pathways, if these nadis of subtle energy are clogged, So that's why in my book, The Power of Auras, I teach specific ways in which you can increase the pranic energy in your energy field, in which you can become more energetic, literally, and in which you can have greater influence, greater charisma, greater magnetism, even sexual attractiveness and prosperity. All of that comes when you have greater pranic energy flowing through your energy field.
I'm going to ask a totally, in my opinion, unrelated question, but you might actually have an answer that I'm going to find very interesting.
Okay.
You're talking about the spokes of the wheel and the rays of the chakra. And so in Indian tradition, do they also see the chakras as being the manifestation of God in the body?
No, the chakras are not manifestation of God, although everything is a manifestation of God, because God is a creator, maintainer of this universe, and it is through God that everything is made in this universe. So all is made of God's substance. However, the life force energy, or prana, that is giving you life, that would be a kind of manifestation of God, although it is not all of what God is, but it certainly is giving life to everything in the universe. So prana is a ubiquitous energy. It is all pervasive throughout this universe, and it gives universe life. Now, prana isn't just in the air. It's not. Many people associate prana with breathing in and breathing out. The word prana means moving or breathing forth. Moving forth is really what it means. But prana isn't just in the air, and it's not just moving in and out of your lungs. It is also in water, it's in food, it's in sunlight, it's in anything that enhances your life and gives you energy. It's also in thought. So prana is in all things that are enhancing your life. So yeah, I would say that it is closer to God than a piece of dirt, although the piece of dirt is also God. So, I don't know.
You shouldn't crack jokes when I have water.
And Dr. Rita, please learn how to say this word. It's chakra. It's not chakra. It's chakra.
Work. I have no phonics skills. You should listen to my show enough. And, I like trash people's names. I do interviews. I talk about gods. I'm like, oh, well, so-and-so. And I get these emails. That's not how you say it. It's like, yeah, whatever.
Who cares?
But see,
it's all good.
But, I've never heard it said
correctly.
Field, since I was a teenager. I've never heard it pronounced with the H.
Oh, really? Chakra. Okay.
Yeah, never. With somebody emphasizing it in that way. So,
yeah, okay.
Only in Tennessee.
Only in
and
Tennessee.
then it made me laugh because they were like, chakra? What's that? Which is what I thought, all right, I'm just going to shut up. Anyway, one of the things that has been coming up is, or what people always want to hear about, sort of, is about science. Has science started to make more inroads into identifying subtle structures?
Well, that's an interesting question because I have an entire chapter in my book, The Power of Auras, and it's called How Science Sees Auras, Researching the Human Energy Field. And throughout, for a very long time, there has been research done on auras, on this subtle energy. And by the way, if you ever dissected a corpse, you would not find prana or a nadi or a chakra anywhere because it is a subtle energy. It's not a gross energy. It's sort of like the electromagnetic field of the earth or radio waves or something like that. You can't necessarily see them or measure them, at least not with the human eyes, not with our senses, but perhaps with our subtle senses, we can definitely experience these things. So there's been a lot of research by many different scientists, such as Reichenbach and Keeley and Reich and Abrams and Drown and Burr, Becker, and so on. There's many different scientists that have studied the human energy field, especially in Russia. There's been a lot of research about it in Russia because of the Kirlian photography. The man named Kirlian who actually created the camera to be able to view the human energy field. And the most recent manifestation of that is Korotkov in Russia, and he has developed this thing called the GDV device, which is, he says that Kirlian photography was like a bicycle, and what he has devised is more like a Mercedes. So he's has a very, very sophisticated device called GDV, and he's from St. Petersburg State Technical University in Russia, and he's able to take really stunning real-time photos and videos of humans, of organisms, of water, and of gemstones. And his GDV device can report potential health abnormalities before the earliest symptoms arise. And he also he's able to suggest remedies. So his technology, this GDV, it's widely accepted throughout Russia and Europe. Of course, it's not, it's sort of underground here in America because nothing is ever accepted in America because of our wonderful FDA. But the reality is it's helping a lot of people throughout the world other than in America.
Well, that's because you can't really make money on it.
Yeah, that's right. You can't make enough money on it. It's not, Well, I don't want to get into that discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, there's been quite a bit of research on what they call the bioplasma and the bioplasma body and biophysics and biophotons and biophotonics, and it's very interesting. And you can read about it in my book, The Power of Auras.
Yeah. So when we talk about the aura, does everyone's look the same, or do they differ person to person?
Well, they differ widely because what you're looking at when you're looking at an aura you're seeing the mental body. And because of the fact that our thoughts and emotions are fluctuating all the time, even our own aura is going to be changing often. Now, there might be an underlying structure to the aura. In fact, if there are problems, for example, in your physical body or problems in your mental body, perhaps emotional problems, they're going to show up in the aura. So if somebody is a good medical intuitive or an aura reader, or even if they use an aura camera, if it's a good aura camera, it's possible for them to see some of these anomalies in the energy field. And they may show up as dark streaks or muddy colors or even black spots on the places where there's actually serious medical problem. So all of that is shows up in the energy field, and different colors show up in the energy field, which indicates specific things for different individuals. So the answer to your question is yes, the aura varies widely between people, but it even varies. Your own aura is going to vary from day to day, an hour to hour sometimes.
And that's a great question that I'd like you to answer so that people hear it. I mean, because, I work as a medical intuitive. I'll go work at a conference, doing session work. And people will come up and go, oh, well, I had an aura reading, an order photo last year, and my aura was pink.
Last year. Okay.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And it's kind of like, and so they're like, well, I have a pink aura. I had a picture done. Could you kind of speak to that point to our listeners?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be different all the time. So, get over the this whole idea of your aura as any specific color. But there may be, you may show up more often as certain colors, perhaps you're more blue or you're more violet or you're more pink, usually. It depends quite a bit on what your focus is. For example, if you're studying a lot or if you're a public speaker or writing or pursuing intellectual activities, then there will generally be quite a bit of yellow in your energy field. If you are very energetic, maybe athletic, or if you are a child who is always very active and athletic, at least hopefully, you're going to probably have quite a bit of red in your energy field because that would indicate that kind of life force energy flowing a lot through the body in a physical way. And if you are, for example, a very spiritual person, maybe you're spending a lot of time in meditation or you are working for a cause, you have a mission, you have a purpose, you're very interested in religion or spirituality, you're probably going to have quite a bit of blue in your energy field. So these different colors mean different things. And in my book, The Power of Auras, I have 2 chapters just on color.
So what if, you get your aura picture taken? I mean, there's, getting a bad aura picture taken, but, your energy doesn't really show up or it just seems very faint. Could that be indicative that there's really an issue going on?
Yes, Dr. Rita. The reality is that if you have a lot of healthy pranic energy flowing through your subtle body, and thereby you also have a very strong, positive mental body, then the colors in your energy field are going to be very bright and very clear. If the colors are muddy, that's an indication that something is amiss. Either you have emotional problems or you're taking some substances that are actually damaging your energy field, such as drugs or alcohol or cigarettes or other malefic substances. And that can show up in your energy field as muddy colors or even dark or gray or even black streaks or spots in your energy field. So it's really important that you keep yourself clear and clean and pure, and then you'll be very healthy, happy, prosperous, and you'll attract good things in your life. You'll attract good energies, and you'll attract good people into your life.
Hang on one second. I'm like typing, There's somebody trying to ask a question. I don't understand what they're talking about, and I can't spell while I'm trying to talk and type at the same time.
Right.
Okay.
So,
okay, but we did have a question which kind of ties into this.
Good.
If someone experiences some kind of trauma in their life, I mean, let's say they are abused as a child or go through a really rough divorce, will that also show up in their auric field?
Yes, that will. Yes, it will show up in the energy field. And if somebody's a really good aura reader, they might be able to pick that up even when they're looking at the aura.
Okay. So let's say...
Now, the important thing to know, Dr. Rita, is that you can reverse these problems. You can clear and cleanse and heal your energy field. You can work with different methods. And in my book, The Power of Auras, I have an entire section of the book that will help you to lift and cleanse and heal and strengthen your energy field. There's an entire section in the book called Strengthening Your Energy Field. So there are different ways and means to be able to heal these problems.
Well, then let me ask a question on that. So if you work on healing the aura, so let's say you are traumatized at some point in time in your life, and it was really bad, and you do these exercises and you work on healing your aura, do you experience healing emotionally? Does it give you the opportunity to let go of this trauma or make resolution or, whatever it is you need to do?
Yeah. Yes, there are ways that you can transmute and transform these negative energies and lift them and release them and let them go. And there's several methods that I suggest in my book, The Power of Auras. Some of the methods are just simply using affirmations and prayer, that type of thing. Some of the things are using color or using sound and color are very effective. Another thing that is effective is using breath with intention. For example, doing specific breathing exercises that will definitely increase your pranic energy, and it brings greater well-being into your field. Also, I suggest specific movements that will help you. Specific energy movements such as brain gym, which I really advocate, and tapping and those types of things. They're working on your energetic body, or even practicing certain yoga exercises that increase the energy in your field. And also I suggest specific methods. In fact, I teach methods of dowsing in this book. I call it intuitive kinesiology, where you're using like a tool to help you, a pendulum, L rods, Y rods, bobbers, that sort of thing. That can also increase your energy. And then lastly, meditation is very, very potent and profound for changing your energy field and lifting it.
Well, taking that the next step, if you're experiencing some kind of a physical issue, health concern,
Yes.
By working with your energy space, is it possible to actually experience healing in the physical, in the gross body?
Absolutely. And a lot of that can be done through affirmative prayer. A lot of that can be done through visualization. And pranayama, also the breathing can help. The physical movements can help. All of this can bring about more swift healing, better healing, more complete healing. And certainly the physical and the mental body are completely tied up with each other. You cannot really separate them. Even though there are these 5 sheaths, the fact is that we are creating our lives, our reality, our physical experiences, and even our physical bodies. We're creating all of that through the mind. The mind is what's creating everything. Lord Buddha says in the ancient scripture called the Dhammapada, which is the most important scripture of Buddhism, he says in the very first verse of the first chapter, he says, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. That's really a stunning statement to make. Mm-hmm. He says all that we are is the result of what we have thought, not just some of what we are, not just every other Tuesday, but in every moment we are creating our reality through our thoughts. And then he goes on later in that verse to say, if a person speaks or acts with a pure thought, then happiness follows him or her. If a person speaks or acts with an impure thought, then unhappiness follows him or her. So what he's saying, just to summarize, in this particular verse, he's saying that we are creating our own destiny and our own reality through our thoughts, through our words, and through our deeds. It's just like if you throw a pebble or a stone in the center of a pond, and the ripples go out from that center to the edge of the pond in concentric circles, and then they come back to the center as they were sent out. Similarly, every thought, every word, and every deed that you do goes out into the universe, and it does not stop with your physical body. It does not stop with your energy field. It goes on out into the universe to touch everything and everyone, and then it comes back to you just as it was sent out. So you're going to attract to yourself exactly what it is that you are sending out into the universe. So that's the bad news, but it's also the good news. The bad news is that we created everything ourselves through our thoughts, words, and deeds, and the good news is that because we created it ourselves, we can also change it. We have the opportunity to change our destiny by every thought, every word, and every deed that we engage in.
Well, and I think a lot of people don't realize that our aura, and the energy we carry around us is like a giant fingerprint, and
yeah.
I mean, I find it very interesting. I'll have a client and they'll say, oh, well, I had a reading with you like 8 years ago. And I'm going, okay, yeah, okay. Until I start reading them and I start getting into their energy. And it's like, I remember you. And I can have recall of the entire session and all this weird stuff we would talk about just because I recognize their energy.
Like an energy signature.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But but what you said really, validates that, because we are our thoughts, and so it is going to create this pattern.
Mm-hmm. Right, and Jesus said, "It is done unto you according to your beliefs." And he's not the only one that said this. He and Buddha are not the only dudes who ever said this. It's been said over and over and over by every wise person throughout the ages. I could go on with quotes, from all kinds of people who have said the same exact thing, that we're creating our destiny through our thoughts, through our words, and through our deeds. And it's in the ancient scriptures of all religions.
I just find it so interesting. And we were talking about mythology in the last hour, how even in religious texts, there is this very deep understanding of the subtle world that...
Absolutely.
That, I don't want to say we don't understand. I mean, there are people that understand it, but that gets so invalidated now. That was part of their world at one point.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's coming back. I mean, I think people are starting to recognize that our physical bodies and physical senses are not the only thing going on in town, that there is really a whole other world, in fact, maybe multi-dimensions. In fact, theoretical physics tells us that this entire universe is made of subtle energy. The theoretical physicists of today are saying that the whole universe was created from these little vibrational strings, that, the vibration or the sound is really what has caused this universe to happen. Well, that's what the people from ancient India said, thousands and thousands of years ago. So the physicists are now catching up to the ancients.
Oh, I know. It just makes me laugh. They should just go to the metaphysical bookstore,
right?
Get a couple of books, and they would know everything.
Exactly. That's what I say, Dr. Rita. That sounds good.
One of the things you talk about in your book, and I would like to, spend a couple of minutes talking about this. You use the word psychic sponge. I think the more common vernacular, although maybe not so nice, is, the concept of a psychic vampire. And I'm assuming you're talking about the same thing.
Actually, it's the opposite. The psychic sponge is the person who is absorbing the energy around them as a sponge absorbs water. So a
Oh.
person who's a psychic sponge is somebody who gets up in the morning and everyone that they meet all day long, they feel like all the people around them are psychic vampires, sucking their energy dry. They feel like they're just being drained with every interaction they have with everyone. They're taking on all the illnesses of others. They're taking on the negative thoughts and emotions of others. They feel like they're being dragged, like they're a mop being dragged through the mud all day long. And then at the end of the day, all they can do is just lie down on their bed and just totally exhausted and just collapse because they're so spent from having to deal with all this junk all day and all the energies, the bad energies that they're just absorbing all day long. And I'm sure that there are many people listening to this show who can relate to this. They can relate to it to some degree. And that's why it's really important for us to learn how to keep our aura in a clear state and to not allow these untoward energies from entering into our field.
Keep going. You're on a roll on this topic.
Okay. So
because I'm going, okay, that wouldn't be me at all.
So great. So the thing is that that's interesting. So the reality is that if we can learn how to keep our energy field closed off to the lower astral levels of mind, to the lower energies, and open to the spiritual world, because there are many levels of existence, and if we're open to the spiritual plane, and if we're keeping our energy field clear and cleansed, then we will have a better day. So I'm just going to teach everyone a little affirmation if you'd like me to teach them. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so here's a really cool affirmation you can use to help you to stay more centered, more balanced, to not be a psychic sponge anymore, and to actually have greater self-authority, have greater integrity in your energy field. And this one affirmation can change your life. It's the most important affirmation that I teach. In my book, Instant Healing, I have 243 affirmative prayers. It's a great reference book. It's great for anybody who wants to use the power of affirmation and prayer in order to change their lives. But there's one specific affirmation that I feel is really important. It's called a self-authority affirmation. And when you say this affirmation, just pretend as if your higher self is saying the affirmation rather than your ego self. So it's just as though you put yourself in a position where, okay, it's my higher self saying it. It doesn't, it isn't like, oh, I have to be in touch with my higher self. It doesn't, just pretend as though your higher self is saying it. So you just say it like this. It's really simple. You just say, I am in control. I am one with God. I am the only authority in my life. I am divinely protected by the light of my being. I close off my aura and body of light to the lower astral levels of mind, and I open to the spiritual world. Thank you, God, and so it is.
Do you have to say it with that tone, too? Whoa, get out of my space. Buddy.
It's helpful to have a little bit of attitude like that. The thing is, you can say it however you want, but the important thing is to say it audibly and not just think it in your head, but actually say it with conviction. And it's really powerful. It'll change your life if you use it on a regular basis.
Well, I think with people that are these psychic sponges, a lot of the times they don't realize that the energy they're taking on is not theirs.
That's right.
So they take it on and take it on. Now they're laying on their bed, and then I get the phone calls, and it's like, I have chronic fatigue. It's like, no, you have everybody else's energy in your space.
That's right. That's it. You're right, Dr. Rita. So the thing is, you can get yourself really sick. You can actually die from being a psychic sponge. It's true because if you can keep accumulating this negative energy and negative vibrations and illnesses of everyone and everything around you and make yourself really sick.
But to me, sometimes just recognizing it's not me. I went to work and I was in a good mood in the morning, and then I went and talked to so-and-so, and now I'm kind of a bitch. And it's like, okay, what happened? It's like, oh, wait a minute, I just picked up their energy.
Right. It happens all the time, yeah.
But
Definitely.
I think just recognizing that, wait a minute, that it's not me. You know, it gives you the opportunity to just let it go and shift back to wherever you were prior to that interaction.
Absolutely. I agree.
Okay. Let's see. So and I had what can we do to protect ourselves, but you gave us that great affirmation.
I mean, I could give you other tips, but yeah.
Well, I'm just kind of looking at the clock. And, well, you know, that one, like what? I'm just
what?
Like what? Like what? I mean, as far as not taking on that energy, because I get a lot of people that have that issue.
Yes. That's why I said I think a lot of your listeners out there, because people that are really spiritual people, they're sensitive people. And a sensitive person is someone who is open to subtle energies. Now, that's a great thing, to be sensitive and open to subtle energies. But you need to educate yourself and learn how to deal with these subtle energies so that you don't take on the negative ones. There isn't all just love and light in there, in the inner planes or the inner worlds or the other dimensions. There are other kinds of beings. There's all kinds of thought forms and other people's energies and a lot of, I just call it dirt. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. There's an astral cloud that covers the earth. And, you know, you can just, if you're too open to the lower realms, then you're just going to pick it all up. And that's just not healthy. It's just not a good thing. So it's important that people realize that it isn't just all fluff and happiness everywhere. They have to learn that they do need to protect themselves from untoward energies and that there are untoward energies. So all of that is really important for people to understand.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that you mentioned was thought forms, and I've heard a number of different descriptions of what a thought form is, and I'm just curious how you define that term.
Well, I would define a thought form as a very strong belief or a thought that has energy to it, shall we say. A strong belief, a strong habit, strong pattern, condition. Could even be something we wear like an armor. It could be just our belief systems, and we are kind of governed by these. And also, a thought form can also be defined as something that we consciously create. If we want to create a specific energy pattern, or if we want to create a specific positive outcome, then we might even create a thought form for that purpose. So thought forms can be used for positive things. I mean, doing prayer and affirmation is creating thought forms, actually. But thought forms are just simply thoughts that have so much energy or intensity to them that they actually become a form. That they're no longer just in the mental world. They've become more they're not really physical, but they're more physical. They have a form to them in the subtle realm. It's not just an abstract idea. It becomes actually a form. It takes shape of some kind.
Well, I mean, I agree with your definition, you know, and I have clients that think they have entity attachments, but what they really have are these thought forms. I mean, have you run across that whole phenomena in your work?
Yes, very much so. I pretty much run across every bizarre phenomenon in my work. So the thing is that there are thought forms, and then there are entities, and those are different things. An entity would be an actual being on a subtle realm. It could be an earthbound spirit, could be somebody who did not go into the light after death. They're stuck or stranded in the astral world. Or it could be a mischievous or malevolent being that lives in the astral world that can take possession of a person or oppression or influence a person. So that would be one possibility. And another possibility is thought forms. Thought forms are created by ourselves or they are picked up from the flotsam and jetsam thought forms that are just floating out there in the environment. In other words, we are being influenced by what I call environmental static. So we're being influenced by the people and the atmosphere around us in a negative way or possibly in a positive way. If we visit a really wonderful spiritual vortex, for example, we go to a beautiful cathedral or a Hindu temple maybe that has great vibes, or we go to a beautiful place in nature that has wonderful, wonderful vibration, or a place that has been sacred for a long time, like Machu Picchu or Mount Shasta or the Tetons, different places that have an inherent really wonderful vibration to them, then we're lifted by the atmosphere. But if we go into a bar, a prison, a mental hospital, a hospital, different places that have another kind of vibration, or we go into maybe somebody's home where the thought forms are very dense, where the couple has been fighting, or where they've been taking drugs, or they've been whether they've been smoking and drinking, whatever, that's going to have a really bad vibe, and it's possible that those will influence us. So we're being influenced all the time by our environment, both external and internal. We have an internal environment too, and that's made up of our subconscious mind and the habit patterns that we've been taught, what we've been brainwashed to believe since birth and even before birth and other lifetimes. It's all there in our own subconscious mind, and it's festering there. And so those thought forms are all influencing us, internal and external.
Okay. It just becomes challenging, with so many people watching like Ghost Hunter and stuff and these shows. It's like they are becoming even more confused as to what's going on with them, and they, insist that they have an entity, and it's like, no.
It could be, but then maybe it isn't.
Well, I mean, sometimes it is, but, the thought forms, do you have very much luck in getting rid of the thought forms? I don't.
That's a very interesting question. If it's a habit pattern that seems to be recurring, over and over, oh my goodness, why is this happening to me again? It's not that easy to change. But if we are really, really desirous of change, and if we are willing to work on that, especially through affirmation and prayer, it is possible that we can change our limited thoughts, beliefs, habits, and conditioning. It is possible to change these. However, many of our beliefs are very deep-seated. They've been with us for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And sometimes it's helpful to perhaps recall some of our past life experiences and see where these originated, and that can be helpful in helping to release them. But there is a very simple thought form healing prayer that I teach people that can help them to at least heal the negative thoughts, feelings, and emotions that are influencing them right now. So it just goes something like this. You would just simply say something such as, I call upon the Holy Spirit to now lift and heal and release any all limiting thought forms, habits, and conditions that no longer serve me. I now release from my mind all thoughts of, and then you would just fill in that blank and just say whatever is coming up for you at the time. And then you would go on to say something like this, and these are gone. They are lifted into the light of God's love and truth. And I am now filled and surrounded, and I welcome new, beautiful, creative thoughts and emotions of, and then you would say the opposite of what you said before. For example, if in the first blank space you had said confusion, now you would say clarity. If you had said unhappiness, now you'd say happiness. In other words, you say all the positive things that are the opposites of what you had mentioned earlier. And then you just finish off the prayer, something like this. I am in control. I am the only authority in my life. I am divinely protected by the light of my being. Thank you, God, and so it is. So a prayer like that, it sounds deceptively simple. It sounds like, oh, how will that ever do anything for me? The reality is that it's an incredibly powerful method for changing your emotions in any given situation. If you use this prayer, if you just, take a couple deep breaths when you're all tied up in knots and upset about something, take a few deep breaths and then just use that prayer, you'd be amazed at how quickly your whole attitude is going to change. It really works. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it actually works.
Well, I'm going to have to make copies of that because either that or I'm going to send you my problem children. Because some of them are problem children. Anyway.
Well, the thing about the problem children is that they may not be taking responsibility for their own lives. The key is if you're continually placing blame on external circumstances, if you're continually thinking that something or someone else is causing all your problems and that you're a victim, then change becomes more difficult. Healing becomes more difficult. If you actually step up to the plate and take responsibility for your own problems and difficulties and start to work in the direction of healing them and do something about it, then that's much more empowering and it'll be easier for you to advance in your healing.
Here. I second that one. So I'm looking at the clock, and we have about 4 minutes till the music rolls. I want to ask one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. But it seems like people are finding the planet increasingly challenging. Mm-hmm. Energetically speaking, what's going on inside of us? I mean, I just feel like, people are in fear. They can't ground. They're not able to connect with themselves or their higher selves these days.
Well, I wonder why that is. Are they making an effort to do that? That's what I would
think
say.
so.
The thing is that right now there's a lot of fear in the general atmosphere of the planet.
It's the sponge people. Come on.
There's just a lot of fear rolling around because of the fact that we can no longer count upon the institutions that we counted on before, like our pensions, our savings, our institutions, religious, government, all these things. We're finding that everything just seems to be dissolving or disappearing or something. And so people have to become more self-reliant, actually, because they can't just think that the government's going to be their mommy and daddy anymore, or that the medical establishment is going to be their mommy and daddy. Whatever people have been dependent on, they're now starting to realize that, in fact, they're going to have to look within to find answers to these problems. And that's what is happening right now. We're being forced to look at ourselves and to look within. And I think that this may have a very positive outcome because people are now becoming more interested in developing a communication with their own higher self and begin to have conversations with the still small voice within them. And that can be something that would very quickly change the planet if everyone were willing to open to spirit and to receive divine guidance from their own inner being, from the in-house counselor that dwells within their own heart, their own higher self. We would have heaven on earth, actually, Dr. Rita. So I think that people having to become more self-reliant and learning how to solve their own problems through spiritual means, I think is a positive step.
Cool. Well, our time is up, Dr. Susan. And so if somebody wants to get, we talked about your Power of the Aura book, I know you had another book just recently come out, The Power of the Chakras, which you're going to come back and talk to us about. But
I would love to.
Where can they get these books?
Right. The Power of Auras and The Power of Chakras are my two latest books. I do have 10 books in print. I would recommend that you go to Amazon.com for my books because actually it's the least expensive place to get them. And also you could go to my website, which is drsusan.org. On my website, you'll find my books and all my other products that are available there. Also, you can read the first chapter of all my books. You can listen to free teleseminars. There's a lot of great things. Get a free mini meditation if you subscribe there. It's drsusan.org. And then there's another website I'd like you to visit, divinetravels.com. That's DIVINETRAVELS.com. On that website, you're going to be able to learn about our tours, cruises, retreats, conferences, places that we visit, sacred destinations. Please subscribe there because then we can notify you of future events. That's divinetravels.com and drsusan.org. Please subscribe on both sites, and we'll see more of you.
All righty. Thank you so much for coming on, and we will have you back on. Well, we'll talk. Anyway.
I'd love that. I'd love it, Dr. Rita.
I love having you come on. So
great.
All right. Well, you have a great evening.
You too.
All right. Thanks.
Join host Dr.
That's Dr. Susan Shumsky. Her book is The Power of the Auras and The Power of the Chakras. And next week we have Jeffrey Pritchett and Andy Colvin coming on talking about the secret life of Bigfoot. So until next week, I'm Dr. Rita Louise. This is Just Energy Radio. Be blessed.
Join host Dr. Rita Louise each week at this time for Just Energy Radio.